This is section 2.5, other types of equations. So we're going to focus on solving a couple other types of equations that kind of have specific properties to them. But the more that you start to see them, I think you're going to see that they're actually really similar to stuff we've been doing before. So the first type is absolute value equations. There's kind of three steps here. We're first going to isolate the absolute value expression. Then we're going to write two equations. We're going to set one of them equal to b, and we're going to set the other one equal to negative b. Now, one thing you've got to pay attention to, this only works if our original problem is positive. Okay, and I'll show you one example here in just a second. Now, the reason this works, the reason we solve two is, remember, absolute value basically just takes a value and returns the positive value. Okay, so for example, this one right here, this first example, I don't necessarily know. I know my answer is 3, but I don't necessarily know if the stuff inside the absolute value equals positive 3 or negative 3. So what we're going to do is just kind of assume that it can be either one. So here's my first equation. There's my second equation. Now you'll notice that the stuff inside of the absolute value does not change. It's just the constant number that's not inside the absolute value. And now I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and I'll get 8 there. Add 5 to both sides, and I'm going to get 2 there. So our answers for this, or our answer, two answers for this one is 8 and 2. Example B, real similar, except for we've got to get the absolute value stuff by itself before we can set our two equations. So first subtract 3. We don't want to distribute through absolute value, so don't do that. Then divide by 4. And so now I've got x, the absolute value of x minus 5 equals 2. But again, because it's set equal, sorry, I don't know why I divided by that. Should divide by 2, I'm sorry. So it's actually equal to 4. Now because we have those two, we're going to go ahead and set it equal to positive 4 and also to negative 4. Again, the stuff on the outside, or the stuff inside the absolute value stays how it is. However, the stuff outside, that's where we add our plus and minus. Now, one thing I do want to point out, if we ever have a question that looks like this, let's say it's set equal to negative 10, okay, that's going to be no solution because it's impossible to get the to have the absolute value of something set equal to negative 10. That's just not going to work. So if it's ever equal to a negative to start off the problem, we're going to go no solution there. All right, real quick, the one with factoring, and you'll see we're going to factor a little bit more. This is just factoring by grouping. So I'm going to take out my GCF, and again, this is just a little bit of practice of factoring. Still going to set them equal to 0. Now, I want to factor as much as I can, so I actually notice this x squared minus 1 can be factored further. And now we have 3 answers. I'm going to set each one of those equal to 0. When I set them equal to 0 and solve, there's my answer. So this one's not a whole lot different, but just kind of something to be aware of. All right, radical equations is where we're going to spend a decent amount of our time here. First, you got to isolate the variable. Isolate the radical. That means get it by itself, get everything else away. Square both sides, but really be careful that you square correctly. Okay, and we'll talk about that in our example. Solve the equation. You must check your answer. Okay, we've been telling you in math class, check your answer, and you know, like, yes, you're supposed to. In this case, I'm telling you for real, you must check your answer. All right, we're going to subtract 3 from both sides and get x minus 3. Now, the easiest way to get rid of the square root is to square both sides. Now, here's what I'm talking about. When you square both sides, on the left, we just get 3x minus 1. On the right, a lot of people want to write this, okay, x squared minus 9, or x squared minus 3 squared. That is not correct. Remember, x minus 3 squared means to take x minus 3 times x minus 3. And when we FOIL that out, we're going to get x squared minus 6x plus 9. Once we get to here, guys, this is just a quadratic. We've spent all this week doing quadratics. So I'm going to set it equal to 0. Let's see. I guess we could do quadratic formula. Actually, this one factors pretty easy. Here we go. X minus 1 times x minus, negative 8, negative 1. When you set each one of them, then I think those are my answers. Okay, but I did say you absolutely must check. So watch what's going to happen. I'm going to check 8 first. So 3 plus, let's see, 24 plus 1 is 25. Oops, I'm sorry, that should be an 8 over there, I'm sorry. So 3 plus 5 equals 8. Awesome, that works. Now let's check the other one. So we're going to plug in 1 this time. So we'll go 3 times 1 plus 1 equals 1. Okay, 3 plus, let's see, 3 times 1 plus 1 is 4. So 3 plus 2 equals 1. That is not going to work. So that means 1 is not an answer. That means that 8 is our only possible answer. If you try to give me both, you will not earn full credit. Again, you must absolutely check your answers with radicals. Example 4, go ahead and skip example 4. We might come back to it, we might not. This guy, skip 5A. And then actually 5B, I need you guys to change in your notes for me. I'm not entirely sure what I was trying to do, but let's actually change the values here. Let's go x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, and actually what you're going to see, I'm sorry. Let's go x to the 4th minus 4x squared plus 3. So this looks like something we should just be able to factor, but because we've got that x to the 4th, I know I'm going to take x squared times x squared. Let's see, the way to get 3 is to, I could go negative 3 and then negative 1. Let's see, this first part I can't factor anymore. The second one I can. Okay, so these are pretty easy, set them equal to 0. X squared minus 3, be careful. All right, we're going to add 3 to both sides. Take the square root, but anytime we take the square root, we've got the positive and the negative. So we're actually going to get 4 answers here. Square root of 3, negative square root of 3, negative 1, and positive 1. Got to have all 4 of those answers. So again, hopefully you kind of see that while these are other types of equations in terms of absolute value, in terms of radicals, and then this one was really just a factoring like a normal quadratic. At the base of them, they are very, very similar to what we've been working on. They just have a couple extra steps. So again, that was section 2.5, other types of equations.